on. But I mean, of course, we gotta start off with some of the adventures. So, you're a very open about being bicultural. So I was wondering, what's it like being bicultural, and were there any impacts to your mental health from these experiences? Now, of course, if you know, just share what you're comfortable with, but let us know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm bicultural, and what by basically being bicultural is kind of like having this split, or even multicultural. It's kind of feel like holding kind of the space in between two different identities, one from your family of origin. So my parents are from Pakistan and India, and then I was born and raised in the US. So I'm kind of growing up with that more Americanized cultural identity as well. So having a bicultural identity is kind of navigating both your family of origin identity and parts of that, as well as like working towards like figuring out who you are in your setting and where you're born and raised. So that's kind of what the bicultural identity is.
Was there ever any like issues with that though? Like, do you
Oh,
feel like,
absolutely.
growing up? Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Or what
You
can
know,
you
I
share
think
about it?
I think, especially like being in my 30s, it's a little bit, I think that mental health accessibility and talking more about, generational issues is a lot more accessible now with the younger generation. But I think like being a millennial, being in my 30s, being in a time when, and this may also be similar for people who are younger, when you have parents who are just struggling to survive in a new country and assimilating to a new country, you are witnessing that, right? So you're witnessing their struggle to assimilate to being in America, and like redefining their bicultural identity and who they are. What do I keep from my country of origin and from my family and culture? And how do I blend in order to survive in this new country, and basically come down to like taking care of my family, right? Because growing up, that was something that they needed to do to survive, right? To blend in, to not be too loud, to not make a scene. So I think that there was a lot of influence from watching them with that struggle, and then also for me as well. What 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 parts of my identity can I show? What parts of my cultural identity can I feel proud of? And then where do I also, when that gets internalized, where do I also want to hide or isolate or not share? Right? I went for a long time, I went by the name Giselle versus my name Ghazal, because I didn't want to get picked on. I didn't want to get bullied growing up in school. Right? If I go by Ghazal, people are trying to pronounce it. People are, hey, 90s kids are mean. Okay. It's not the same
Oh,
as
I know.
this. Like,
Yeah.
they'll laugh at you right when you get called the wrong name in class, right?
Oh
So
yeah, big time. Ready to jump on anything.
exactly, ready to jump. And like, and or even like just like wearing like my clothes from my custom, from my culture, and like not wanting to stand out in that way, trying to assimilate to culture in order to, in their way of survival and my way of almost like not being picked on or bullied or standing out or being different growing up. So I think in those ways, that's where it really showed up for me in my childhood and into my teen years. And now it may show up in different ways, but that's kind of how I grew up, struggling with my identity and who I was versus like assimilating to what I thought was normal and what you saw on TV. And what you saw on TV was generally,
It's white people. It's okay. We
yeah,
can say it. Yes, it's fine.
exactly.
I mean, just for anybody watching here, if you go back and watch, like, what's the one I saw recently? Do you remember that slip and slide? Do you remember
Mhm.
that? Do you remember that, right? You're in the backyard and you put water on it, you can slide it. Okay, of course, I only fantasize about it. I thought it was only for rich white kids, so I never got to go on that. But if you go and check that commercial,
Yes,
it's all white people.
I believe it.
Not all of it. And I remember seeing this come up on social media. I'm like, that's not possible. And then I went back and checked a couple of 90s commercials, and lo and behold,
Absolutely.
you would never see brown people on there. That's not happening. It
Well,
really sucked. You
or
don't
one,
notice this.
yeah, maybe one token brown person, but not
Yeah.
even. Maybe
Yeah.
for Indians, maybe like the person in healthcare.
Yeah, right. Oh my God, like it's terrible. See, it's great that we're evolving from that now. Like we can look back and laugh at it now because we're finally making steps towards like we're progressing from this, right? But at that time when you're a child, you're internalizing all these things. You don't really realize it. So even something as simple as your name, it's true. It's
Yeah.
very true. Like when I was, I mean, obviously I'm lucky. The name Christian is not really like that bad, but I still internalized white culture and I would still prefer the name Chris when I grew up, all the way
Mhm.
up until high school,
Yeah.
right? Because in Hispanic culture, Christian is like how they say my name, but I want to be Chris, I want
Right.
to
Right.
be
Right. Right.
right. So I totally get you on that. It's really terrible. I was
Yeah.
wondering though, if you don't mind sharing, like what age did you come to America, like, as an immigrant?
Yeah. So I'm a child of immigrants, but I was born and raised in America.
Oh, okay, cool. All
Yeah.
right. So then you had to see. All right. So that still brings its own challenges because then that means you growing up in American culture, but your parents want you to be in their culture.
Mhm.
So I gotta ask. I mean, I don't know if it's. Yeah, no, we could. What happened there? Like, what was like the first rebellious step you ever taken where you'd be like, no, this is me. This is the American me.
Oh my gosh, the first rebellious step would probably be just like, it's like in the silliest way, it's probably like grabbing my mom's like hair bleach and like going upstairs and dyeing my hair blonde. Like,
Oh
right? Or like piercing
no.
my own ears as like a kid in like my room and like, or trying to go through that Avril Lavigne phase and get a tie on, like
Yes, let's go, Avril
ears,
Lavigne.
like all of it, like oh gosh, like I think that's what would be called like my rebellion or my just my teenage angst at that time was probably those little things. So probably my earliest stages of like trying to navigate that.
Oh my goodness, that must have been something else. Yeah. So for people who have like immigrant parents, you would know they can never see you have a different hair color, a piercing. Oh no, you're
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
you're the kid if you do that. So
yeah.
I recall those moments with my
I mean,
oldest sister having to experience that.
right. I mean, just trying to get Lunchables versus like taking food from home.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a struggle.
I would take a ham sandwich, that plain white bread, ham on it, as long as it made me, a part of the kids. If I came with something exotic, no way. I'm not trying to get laughed at. There's
Yeah,
no way.
exactly.
It's true when
If you want to hear more stories, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. To support more youth by youth led projects, visit us at youthspeak.ca where you can donate and spread youth mental health awareness.
YouthSpeak Performance Charity. Speak, inspire, change.